All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Markan. I'm Iqbalian, graduate 2007, and we have Dr. Ateeq Rehman. He is a residency program director, and we had an excellent session last time around, and this is going to be a second session. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Rehman. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you.
All right, excellent. Are they seeing your screen, guys? Did you see him? All right, I think you did. He's the speaker. Anyways, so we have a couple of new questions popping up on our screen. And in this session, we like to talk more about important interview questions, as well as rank order lists. That's going to be fairly important for people when they're deciding how to rank a program. So we will look to answer all of these questions. One question that somebody is asking, and it's a very important question. It's I'm not sure who this is from. It says anonymous, so I can't really pinpoint the individual, but how important is commitment towards a specialty? How does the panel judge this category? So basically the question is, if you have different experiences in your CV, and you're applying, let's say for medicine, you're applying for family medicine, you're applying for peds, or you're applying for surgery or any other specialty that you're applying for, how does the panel look at it if you are here, let's say for an internal medicine interview, and your experience is slightly divergent, although you may have some internal medicine experience in your CV, but you also may be having, let's say, radiology, or you did a stint in ENT perhaps. How does the panel look at this, and what can you potentially do to answer this question if they say, okay, your CV is a little wavered? Can you describe on your commitment to this program, and how would you approach this, Dr. Ateeq?
So I think it's as you mentioned, that if you have a good reason to back up your argument. And for that matter, it's not a negative thing at all. If I see someone has done radiology practice, I ask them, why did you gain radiology experience when you were interested in internal medicine? And they tell me that they primarily wanted to get into US system because there are no observerships available as a result of COVID, and they did whatever they could get. So that's a major positive for them. So I think, again, I would say, as I said before, you don't need to mince words. You don't need to change your statements. You don't need to tell something which is not genuine. If you had interest in peds and now you switch gears and you thought you are going to change it to internal medicine, so what? People change their specialties all the time. If you talk to medical students in US, they are like, at one point they want to do orthopedic surgery, at another point they want to go to family practice. So many people are undecided about their careers, and you know, I mean, you came here, you thought to give and get an idea about peds residency too. I think you can, if you have applied in peds or med peds, I think it's within your right to hide that information and not talk about that to the program director, because that definitely is going to be seen as, like, you know, which specialty the person is interested in. But otherwise, you have put it on your CV, be truthful, tell the reason why you went into that, where you were testing waters and you had but now you are committed with particular specialty. That would be okay. I mean, people can have letters of recommendations written by other specialty when they are talking about internal medicine. Sometimes you have people who are applying actually in internal medicine, and their letter of recommendation is talking about another specialty that they are applying into. So whoever applies into multiple specialties should make sure that their letter of recommendation, the proper letter of recommendation, gets sent to the specialty that they apply in. That is my answer to your question.
No, that is actually great. That don't worry about it. People, they know that, hey, okay, you are from a different country, and you may have had different aspirations, and some specialties may be difficult, or there's just no openings in the US to get in a particular residency, and you may have ENT background, you may have a general surgery background, and now you're focusing towards medicine, and you can say, I think I may have a different background, but it only adds to my capabilities as a resident in medicine if I have a surgical sort of background, or I have a radiology background as well. I have experience in that as well, or ENT, or whatever, even plastic surgery. This will all add to my my experience, and this is all what I bring to your program. And I think that's a valuable aspect for myself that I bring to this program. So, and I'm full-fledged moving forward towards internal medicine now. And I want you to consider me as a full-fledged internal medicine candidate, and be confident, and don't be apologetic in anything, and bring that on as a positive for yourself.
Definitely, that's your strength. That's not a weakness at all.
Right, excellent. I think I have another interesting question. This is about an interesting candidate. Can you, Aisha Anwar is asking, can you talk about the things which sets a candidate apart from others in the interview? What makes a program remember the candidate at the time of ranked list who interviewed earlier in the program? So there are two questions here. So I think maybe you may want to talk about certain interviews that you conducted that you thought were a standout interview, or something you won't forget as a positive for that candidate, that the candidate actually stood out. That's one question, and then we'll touch upon the second question after this, possibly.
Yeah, so I think I've learned lessons about the candidates and excellent interviews as well. Someone who is presenting you with an excellent interview in terms of if you would observe that person, or if I would observe that person 3 or 4 years ago, and I would say, this is the person I would get, like, because of the interview experience. It ended up being not so good experience eventually. So I would say, for any program director, this is a moving goalpost. Like, what defines a very good interview? What defines a great interview to remember? There are very few interviews which change your mind completely about a candidate. And most of the candidates are their CV carries like more than 50, 60, 70% of weight when you interview them. But interview does make a lot of difference. So I think someone who is genuine, as I mentioned before too, I'm repeating myself, that you should be a genuine person. You should talk about yourself freely. You should be honest in your opinion. Someone who is ready to admit what their weaknesses are. Someone who is ready to assure you that they are energetic and they are into the field because they're in this field because they want to excel and learn more and deliver more. Those are the attributes that you look at. So I won't say that, any interview experience, any memorable candidate would make me rethink about all of that. If someone stood out because of their interview as 1 in 100 candidates, that is a slippery slope. I would just I would rethink 10 times about it before I would think, this is the person I want to get in my program.
All right. So it's you need to be pleasantly a pleasant candidate, as you don't want to be a notorious candidate. Yeah. So it can go both ways.
Anyone who is extremely overconfident. Omar, are you there? Because you're stuck with your smile here. Hello?
I'm stuck.
Omar, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Now I can hear you. Sorry, there was a time your screen froze.
Okay.
So I think our question was, yes, definitely never go out there and act. There should be no desperation in anything. If there is a morning report, you don't need to ask 10 questions in that. If you have a genuine question, definitely you should, but you should not try to stand out. Don't talk to coordinator about 10 things about how is the weather over there. If you have 7 or 8 candidates and you are the only one out there who is talking about everything, that is not standing out as a candidate and having a great interview. There should be a degree to which you should act like an extrovert. So run in the middle, not too quiet, not too much out there. But that is interaction with other people. But when it comes to interview with program director or with faculty, I think you should appear energetic. You should appear as a person who has a solid mind, who's a thinker. And again, you think before you talk. you are deliberate when you are talking about things. You are you have good answers, and your answers are according to the questions asked. If you have humanistic qualities, if you have empathy, expressing that is it's demonstrating that or expressing that. Why are you in field of medicine, for example? Most of us are not in field of medicine because we want to make a lot of money. I mean, there may be some, but that comes as a secondary thing. But why are you in the field of medicine? Tell me about an interesting case, for example. Like, I mean, empathizing with the person rather than telling an interesting case that, I ended up diagnosing a rare sarcoma. You should you should demonstrate that you empathize with the patient all throughout your conversations, because that's again a quality that most of you have, but that's a quality that people are looking for in you as well.
Excellent. So basically, with Dr. Ateeq, just to summarize that, make sure that you are yourself. That's number one. I think that the best quality that you can demonstrate in an interview is you're number one. You are a good person, and act as if you're a human, and you empathize, because a physician has to empathize with the patient and in whatever the person is doing. One thing I used to do was I was doing some research at that point when I was doing my residency. And I would bring a printout of my latest abstract or the paper that I'm submitting or the paper I submitted. And I would bring it in a clear plastic folder, and I would have like 10 of them for each interview. And especially with the chief interviewers, I would hand this out. I just want to share this as an update. I just want to share this as an update to my CV that I have submitted this abstract. And I would just say that, and I would give it to the interviewer, and sort of my interview would be directed through that as such. And in a way, I would be able to guide my interview in this manner. But that I would think would have set me apart a little bit initially. But all I would do is I just wanted to provide an update to my CV in the form that I did submit this latest abstract, and just wanted to share this with you. That's all I would do, and continue with the interview forward. So anything maybe set you apart that is new since you submitted your application would be great as well, and somebody may remember that in the future.
Good point.
Okay, so next question with this was, and what makes a program remember the candidate at the time of rank order list who interviewed early in the program? So this is very important, a question that people have, that you interviewed very early during the interview season. And how do you look at candidates? Is there a grading system that the programs have that they grade so that they can maintain stability amongst their review of candidates, whether they are interviewing early in the season or they're interviewing later in the season, let's say in September, October, November versus December, January, or even, I don't know if it still goes on till February or not. So early candidates versus late candidates, when should you schedule your interviews? Maybe that's one part of the question.
I think it does not make any difference whatsoever, because eventually the only thing is that you I don't think it makes any difference, because whoever interviews you, everyone makes notes of interaction, and it's across the board in all programs. They are going to find ways to remember you. Most of the people who interview you, they have been doing it for years and they have experience. You can even down the road, you can even see who had like 25 interviews. You can make an impression about a candidate, how rehearsed they are, how many times they have had interviews, because as you go through this process again and again, your nerves kind of get used to it and you appear more confident. When it's not first time around, many programs are much more forgiving, because again, you're taking the first leap, and they are even not at their best. They are also nervous to make sure that everything works okay, the virtual system is working fine, and the interview goes well for them as well. So I would say that it's a draw of luck. There are so many factors in which come into play when choosing a candidate or interviewing a candidate. you will never be forgotten if you are the first interview or you interview at the first day. You don't need to sort of like, unless you believe in dates or that sort of thing, there is nothing that is going to set you apart if you interviewed on day one or you were an interview on last day of interview. Sometimes you even can be affected by the quality of candidates. I mean, we are human beings. You can be affected by quality of candidates for the day. If you are one person who is working with, who is on interview with 5 or 6 people who are just stellar and they are best of the best, and you are on a very good interview day, may ding you a little bit, and that may be on the first day of interview, that may be on the last day of interview. But I would say that, dates don't matter. Everyone makes notes. Everyone has some form of scoring or grading system. ERAS has it, and you can develop your own as well. People make notes. They find ways to remember the candidates, and again, they've done it over and over again. So they will never forget you.
Got it. Excellent. So it doesn't really matter if you interviewed early in the season or later in the season, and the program judge understands that later candidates will be more proficient with the interview process, and they will know how to answer questions better. So don't worry about if you had an interview earlier versus later on. Don't think that that's a problem. All right. Okay. All right. So are points from personal statement discussed during an interview? I think my short answer would be that yes, every single thing in your application, you have a CV, every single point in your CV is good question. So yes, every single thing. Maybe you want to elaborate on that.
If someone talks about your personal statement, please take it as a very positive statement. They are interested in you as a candidate. So you look at letters, you look at everything, but if someone has looked at your personal statement in detail, make sure you get excited about it, because that means that they want to know more about you. They did an in-depth study of your CV. And remember, personal statements should not be the same, actually. So I'll give you example that this is very popular, was very popular joke among us. When we came to US, we had these personal statements, which one of the guys wrote, and he said that, when I was sitting on the bank of canal in front of my medical school. So then, there was one Michigan program whose program director saw third Iqbalian of our batch, and she said, do you guys have this very popular place where you guys think a lot, sit down and think a lot? He says, the candidate says, what are you talking about? And she said that, whoever I'm seeing in personal statement that starts while sitting on bank of canal, I thought that I'm going to apply to US as a candidate. So opening statement was same. So having said that, it should not be, the personal statement should be a genuine personal statement. You can help people edit it, but if you're going to write an account of your own story, that would be great. And all of us, I would say almost every candidate that I meet has a personal story which is more inspiring than mine. I even on every interview day, I find 1 or 2 people and I look at them and I say, wow, you just want to apply to US system while you were in a med school in Pakistan. That's in of itself an amazing story. And how many hurdles you face. Everyone faces hurdles. I face so many, so do you. So I think just be genuine about it. And then, yes, if your personal statement is being discussed, take it as a positive thing, and defend your personal statement. Again, be genuine. Your personal statement, I would not say at all you should not put quotes or you should put quotes in your personal statement, but you should back it up with your personality. If you are quoting Shakespeare in your personal statement or Winston Churchill or someone your interview should be that of a person of an intellectual level that defines that particular person, or that means you are reading those sort of books and that's genuine representation of your intellect. So representation of intellect can be And when you write very simple personal statement, which talks about your struggles and what you want to become and how you faced it, how you wanted to become what you are and why you are applying, I think that makes you a very good candidate, even with a sometimes very simple words can be very strong.
Excellent, excellent. So if they're asking you questions from your personal statement, that means they have read your personal statement, and that is very something positive. They really want to talk to you. That's basically what you're saying, right?
Yes.
All right. And the other good point that Dr. Ateeq mentioned was that a lot of times we copy personal statements. And I remember that when I review some candidates who asked me to review their personal statements, a lot of people from AIMCAANA Iqbal, we have the same thing, PWS, Patient Welfare Society, the blood bank situation that we had back in, I'm pretty sure it's still active right now. And everybody has the same thing. So if everybody in Iqbalian applying for this residency program, it sort of repeats itself. So try to be very genuine, try to bring something that really happened in your life in your personal statements. I think it's maybe a little late for this season, but hopefully everybody matches and we don't need to repeat that next year. But so any Iqbalian who's watching, try not to be heavy on PWS. I think that's a very common thing everybody puts, Iqbalians put in there. Next. Okay, what are Prem Shankar is asking, please mention your name when you're asking so we can direct that question directly to you as well. What are the things that we should highlight when asked about research or a challenging case? I think we talked about the challenging case last time around. We'll touch on that again. We'll talk about a little bit on that, not too much. When asked about research, so I believe everybody tries to put in something in their CV about research that they did. I think in the community medicine department or some other departments, we do end up doing some type of research in Pakistan. And a lot of people may not have any other research, but I believe that if they're asking for research, you should know about that research, what you did, what were the process involved. But Dr. Ateeq, if you're asking about a research project, how detailed would you want to get into that?
So I would tell you that a good research, many of us many of candidates who are from Pakistani background. Now, I cannot generalize it, but if you have been in Pakistan and you have tried to participate in research, you may not know everything about the research project and the process. So those candidates who come in US and they participate in research and application process, it's a bit different for them. But as far as research is concerned, I would say if you did not participate in research, or if you did participate in a survey-based research or an open-label trial of small kind, you just make sure you are prepared well for questions and then highlight the answers. But just if you are not very well versed with research, just go with that disclaimer in the beginning that I am here. Research is something that I did not explore. And I'll tell you, many of US residents too, many US candidates, they also talk about research and they do not have any experience and they want to see and explore that. So I would say that if there is a solid research that you have done, especially in West, that is what mainly counts. If you have done some projects, you can highlight them if they're real good projects. If you know the tests you applied, how you gathered statistics, because whoever is going to ask you research question, they are going to be well versed with research. That would be a field of their interest. So you should know that you have to answer all the questions related to the field or related to your research at that point. So that would be my answer. Like if you have done some work but you are not sure about it, say you are not sure about it. Give that disclaimer.
All right, excellent. So and I'm going to add a little bit to this. So research, they may ask for it. I actually was never really asked too much about research other than what I've already done. Yes, if you have done research, whatever it is, you must be able to talk about it. If you didn't do anything, no research, then just say plainly, don't be apologetic or anything else. Just say plainly, no, I wasn't involved in any significant research activity. Yes, most of us, we may have written a case report, or we normally in the community medicine department, I remember we used to do a lot of hepatitis questionnaires or vaccination status or something similar. So just say that this is what you did, and this is your level of experience in this, but you're always, of course, eager to learn. And I will look forward to the opportunities that I may have in your residency program. So be open and be accepting and be eager to learn. I think that's what people are looking at. If you're applying to a university program or program that is good in research, then yes, you should know that they will be looking for this question. And you should have, and if you don't have experience still, then just say that no, but I'm very eager to learn and I believe that I'm a quick learner. Then you can say they're always looking at other things, that are you proficient in Excel? Because with Excel, you need to do a lot of data gathering and monitoring. So maybe that's their question. But anyways, I think Dr. Ateeq did a good job on this. We're going to move forward. Challenging case, we'll touch very briefly on it. We don't want to go too much into the detail on the challenging case because we already talked about this in the last video. I think Dr. Ateeq mentioned last time about the challenging case, that okay, if it's a case that is interesting and you know how to present it well, that is what they're looking for in the challenging case. You know how to present a case. That is going to be very important because you are going to be presenting patients in your morning rounds or anytime in your residency. Make sure you know how to present that case properly. You go step by step, and you can always be open that, hey, okay, I was expecting this question and I have a challenging case that I would like to talk about. And I've mentioned this case in the previous interviews as well, but this is very interesting because of this reason. And it had a learning objective, or it was something new that you had never seen before, or your attendings thought that this was a rare presentation that they have not seen too commonly. That's why I think this is a challenging case. And this was the chief complaint. Patient presented like this, past medical history was this, body of the case, review of labs, review of imaging, pertinent results. And this was a differential we were looking into. This is what we did to investigate this case further. And this popped up as a result of this case. And next day we found something about this case further, or this significant history was very peculiar that we haven't heard before. So try to present, basically look to present a case as you would present in morning rounds, possibly.
And I would say, I would add that try to, when I came, as I was giving example last year, some of the cases that we see from infectious disease standpoint, amoebic liver abscesses and tuberculosis related presentations, typhoid presentations are very interesting for us here now in terms of the interesting cases. So the cases which are relatively common but come in weird presentation and are sort of unheard of in West make very good cases, because most of you guys have worked in Pakistan, you must have seen those. When I was here, I mentioned, like I remember I would tell them about a case of testicular tuberculosis that we diagnosed, epididymitis or orchitis presentation, which ended up being tuberculosis. So I remember taking care of that patient, and I thought that was very interesting case, and everyone was kind of wowed by that case when I told them about it. So it's just like, keep in mind, like any case that you have really seen, and it should be a good summary. It should not just go on and on. Anything in the interview should not be painfully big in presentation. And one thing I want to tell you, I'm just swaying away from what Umar is asking me. Know the visual cues of what other person is doing actually. If they are constantly distracted during interview, that might be their personality, or they might be busy answering someone, that's fine. But if you are answering question and you are understanding their body language, that's very positive. For example, they said, talk about yourself. And then, they're very interested, but then you see that, they're trying to look away, and they're trying to like act in a way that they don't seem that much engaged. Get that visual cue and shorten the presentation and say, I can answer if you have any further questions regarding that. Okay.
Excellent. Don't bore your audience. Basically, that's what he's right. All right. So next question by Shandana. Dr. Ateeq, if I take step 3 now, will it make a difference for this match cycle? So if you take step 3 now during this cycle before your next interview, would that make a difference? And would that make a difference in regards to result in hand or result not in hand? I think result in hand will be preferable.
Yeah, result in again varies from one program to another and one season to another. We always, I mean, it's better to have step 3 in your hand before the match season, before final match date starts, where before the rank order list time is done, and that varies from one program to another. So I would say, if you can take step 3, have step 3 result as soon as possible. If you are interviewing and you are seeing a step 3 result in front of you, and that's a good result, that adds, and especially it will become very important next year when the step 1 score is not going to be available. So if you look at step 2 and your step 2 is like, not very high, your step 3 is going to back up your candidacy a lot. So, but then also to answer your question, step 3 as soon as you can have, if you communicate to program that my step 3 result is back and this is my score, they may note it, they may not note it, like, they may make a note of that, but you cannot get the advantage during the interview that, they're going to look at you and they're going to say this person has passed step 3. So again, and also how long can you take after, I mean, this is also another important question that people ask, like when do program need step 3 result before they're giving me H1? And that varies from one program to another. That can go all the way down to like, June, and that can be January, end of January. So you have to ask individual program about H1 sponsorship and result of step 3 in hand. But I would say as soon as possible is the best.
Right. So have step 3 in hand as soon as possible, but make sure don't fail the exam. Failure, it won't be good. Yeah, make sure don't rush it. That's the point. Don't rush it. Pass. Go for a passing score. Okay, next. Does letter of interest get read by Dania Qureshi?
You just keep on sending what you are sending. Actually, many programs are seeing that. I would say that it's very difficult to like wake up, and I sometimes have 60 emails from various candidates that I in the beginning of season, I start deleting them and then I stop deleting them, even because it's again like, it's a very busy part of time. But I would say that every now and then you look at a letter and you can say, but you should not repeatedly send it, like, I mean, every day or every other day. You can send it once or maybe twice. That's enough for programs to record it. So even if you are one of the best candidates, it's so difficult for you to be identified. You may think that what else can I do to capture attention of this program that I really am interested in. The program may be done with getting a list, and program may not know you. It's like sometimes you are like a needle in a haystack. So just don't overdo it. But letter of interest are sparingly read. They are read when people are, I mean, it varies from one program to another. Having a letter of interest at least sent once to the program that you are applying in is very much necessary. So that's my answer to your question.
Right, good. And I know back in the day they said, okay, we will put this in your application or something similar. Just to, I think, when you do have the interview and you do want to rank in that program, then one question that sometimes comes up is, why do you want to join our program? So always mention why you do like this program and you feel that this program is a good fit for you. So you make the questionnaire, the interviewer understand that, yes, this person really wants to be here. You can, of course, if you already live in that area, if you're in New York or you already live in New York, yeah, this is going to work out fine for me. Or that I like autonomy. I believe your program provides me good balance between autonomy and supervision. Make sure you provide that. You say that I've interviewed, don't minimize any other program, but say that, okay, your program seems a good fit for me. I'd like let's say if it's a city environment, I like a city life, or it's in a rural area, or it's in a suburban area. I like to have some open space, and this is the ideal situation for me. Or I believe the specialty that I'm applying for, I believe your candidates go to a fellowship after residency from your program, and I did my research, and I believe this is a good program for me. So to tell them why you're actually interested, not just, okay, I'm just interested in this program. give a reason why you are interested, and that may stick a little better. All right. Okay, Shantana has another question. If I go to the hospital, to the hospitals in person to talk to the PD to get them to review my application instead of writing emails, can that work against me? Would that be considered unprofessional? So somebody is being really proactive and they are going on a date that they don't have an interview and they want to talk to the PD and they want to just get to know the people. Would that work?
I don't think so at all. I think varies from one person to another. I personally won't appreciate. Everyone is busy. Everyone. This is again, those are, again, one size doesn't fit all. I'm talking about myself. This is like an example of a weird behavior. You don't see, I mean, this is not like Pursuit of Happiness movie where you're gonna come out with a puzzle and solve it in front of a person. This is a residency interview. You guys are professionals. You have spent time. You should have, you are people with a lot of, like, thing in you. You're qualified. You should just stay in the middle and do things rather than going out there. I have seen people coming in during the conferences and trying to get to know uh, program directors, and I think that's again a very negative thing, not a positive thing in my opinion. This is again, this sounds like a I mean, you just want to stay in the middle. You don't want to be a candidate who is just going out there and trying to catch attention. Desperation, even if you are desperate, is always, I think I would never, I don't like people who just appear desperate. The interview is one thing in which you just keep composure, so that, and a person who can keep composure, try to understand the method to this madness. Someone who keeps a composure during interview is going to be keeping composure in their usual life too. Someone who cannot keep composure during the interview process becomes desperate, and, or like, is unable to control emotions to a degree that they're laughing like crazy or they're crying like crazy. Those are all things, in my opinion, are not reflective of a personality who you are hiring as a resident. So again, these are my opinions. I'm just sharing my thoughts with you, but I would say, or thoughts that, I spoke to some of the other program directors about, but you should just make sure that you don't just go out there and do something which is weird.
All right, excellent. So basically be confident, calm, and composed, and that should do the job. Next question by Anonymous. Other than the impact of step 3 on the type of visa sponsored by the program, what is the importance of step 3 for candidates with green card? Okay, so green card specific question. Okay, you have a green card and you have step 3. I think that should help out, I believe, a little bit more.
So green card, if you have if you're applying on a green card, and step 3 has value only if your scores are low. For example, step 1 and step 2 are low. It will improve your CV if you pass step 3 and you have a good score, or even if you pass step 3 in first attempt, as Umar was saying. So otherwise, for a green card holder, step 3 sets you apart. I mean, you have to take step 3, you have to write it, you have to pass it. So it's just like one more thing under your belt. But I would say that it's more important if your scores are low in step 1 or step 2, and it makes you more competitive candidate if you have passed step 3, and it would be even better if you got a little better score in step 3.
All right, excellent. An interesting question, and I think that is carrying over from the previous discussion about updating your CV at the time of the interview. How can we share research abstracts or new additions to the CV in a virtual setting? Can we share an e-copy through Zoom or WebEx? So it'll probably depend on what program you're using. And I'm not sure, Dr. Ateeq, if you've seen any candidate updates you through this virtual setting, and how has that, if that happened, how that happened, and how did that transpire possibly?
I think I never had anyone who just put, like, this is my research, or I want to share this I want to share my screen with you, and I want to show you my research type of candidate. Sometimes you and program director go down a path which is of huge mutual interest, and then you can offer. If you would say, I can email you my work, and you can look at it in more detail and ask me question if you have any. I think that's more appropriate. But I think in virtual environment where you have limited time, um, yeah, I think it's I've never had any experience like that. In as you are mentioning, Omar, this has become way more popular now, where people come in with a snapshot of their career as a CV and how they started, what year they were in, especially for older graduates who have to cover a lot, and they did tons of good things during that time. uh, that's a good way to cover that, where you are going to show that you did not lose any particular time. You can send that in email if you are interested. Who knows, like, I personally don't pay attention to that, but there might be programs who might pay attention to that. Again, I would say that, it would be a bit, to me it sounds a bit weird if someone would say that I want to share screen with you and I want to present my research to you. That would be my answer to your question about using that. But again, if there is an interesting discussion, if someone seems interested, go down that path. Do not overdo on anything. If you want to overdo, if research is where you want to touch on the things, know that people have reviewed your CV and they might know about that already. And sometimes it's not about, sometimes you are your own enemy when you keep on bringing the same subject over and over again. Someone knows that you are a good researcher and they want to know how good you are clinically. So if you are going to talk about research, they want to take you out of that, and you just are going in over and over again in the same bucket. So that may go against you. So I think interview is not about, it's about highlighting, but in a smart way. It's about highlighting your strengths in a smart way. So don't overdo on research part or publications part.
All right, excellent. Somebody anonymous has raised their hand. I don't think I can activate them somehow from my end, but we'll move forward and maybe you can ask a question in the comments area. Jamshed Akhtar is asking, my question is, if someone is doing research in a specialty other than what he applied in, what's the impact on the application and interview? Basically the same question. If you're committed to this line of work, I think yeah.
Sure, I would say that it's a very positive thing. It's a very, any type of research that you have done, or any part of, again, I would say, if you came to US especially and you did research, you can say, I wanted to get research experience. This specialty was available, and I just took it. You want to do cardiology, you got research in pulmonary or GI, just say it. Like, my specialty was always there, but I was going for opportunity. I got opportunity in this particular specialty, and so be it. So, whatever the truth is, just say it. I think you will never, I don't see personally, I see that, again, I would say what I said over and over again. You do not need to custom make your interview for a particular program. I don't think you should do that. A genuine person who talks genuinely and tells what they have is the best approach.
All right, so you don't be afraid of showing that, or somebody asking about that. Say, bring that as a positive about yourself. All right. MT Avana, what is the best thing you look for in a candidate you offer a position? Okay, so maybe just to rephrase that, what do you finally decide as the program director when you are putting together your own rank order list? How do you finally decide, okay, these people I'm going to bring together?
I think this is something which cannot be explained in this session. I would say to candidates, there was a question about rank order list too. I would ask you a question. When was the last time you traveled through a plane and said you want to talk to captain about, like, how is he gonna fly, how is he gonna land, how is he or she is gonna go through the journey, explain to me so I can understand. You may have curiosity about it, but would that affect your ticket or your ability to get a seat in the plane? It would not. So I think don't spread your thoughts too much about all this process. This process is by no means complete. There is no one principle by which every program is gonna work. What is in your what think about the things that are in your hand. If you want to practice something, practice talking to each other about how your responses are going to be. Work on your spoken English more than anything else for interview, so you're confident and you can express what you want to express. Think about questions before you can answer them. So when it comes to summarize it, you need a combination of residents in your program. If I have 9 people whose strength is research, or 10 people who all want to do research and do not have any good clinical abilities, that would not be the mix that I would want. If I have 10 people who all are interested in becoming hospitalists and join this program as primary care program, I would not want to be. So everyone wants a diversified, and diversification is not only about the type of candidate, it's about what is the background of a candidate. You want people from, I mean, I take pride, I'm in central Wisconsin, and we take people from all over the world. So we have a small world here actually, and I'm very proud of the fact that we have people from diverse backgrounds. And that's like one of the position of many, that position is something that many programs care about. They do not want to be all like, uh, Caribbean program, all IMG program, all US grad program, all like, so you want to diversify yourself in terms of all, like, you want to make sure that minorities are represented, and you have representation from all over the world. So I would not be able to answer that question because there is no clear answer to that question that you asked.
Basically, be confident, play your strengths, be confident, and do your best, your best presentation, and that should be good. That's what you can do for yourself. All right. I think we talked about this. What about emailing the PD or PC? I think you mentioned that, yeah, you get emails on a regular basis.
Every program is different.
Right.
So Omar, every program is different. Some programs, program coordinators are very strong, and they are the ones who actually, I heard even there are programs, and a couple of them in New York, in which program coordinator actually can extend a call on her own too. I have heard about that, but I would say that it varies from one program to another. More programs in that I know of in surrounding area and stuff, like program coordinators, if you're going to give them a call, many of them are going to be, again, there is a flood of candidates and emails that you can address both program director and program coordinator. I personally do not mind that. You just want to make sure you reach out to program, and that works actually. If a program has like more than 3,000 applicants, okay, 4,000 applicants, what's their way of knowing who is a good candidate? They cannot even apply filter and select out candidates just randomly. So they cannot review all those applications. So your email does work. So yes, I think you can do one email to both actually.
All right,
excellent. But don't overdo that. Don't send it every third day, every other day. That's irritating actually. People can, you sometimes get to the point where you email a person and say like, please do not email again. It's been enough, because everyone in Outlook, you can know how many times you have been contacting. It's going to be lumped together as one after another. So it would look very odd if you sent an email to a program every other day for like last 15 days.
Right. So basically, don't be too eager. Share every now and then. No, not every now and then. Show your intent. Of course, maybe if you have an update, let's say you passed step 3 perhaps, then, or you got your visa approved or whatever, something really significant, make sure you mention that.
Yeah. And emailing program directors is fine. Program directors can filter your, they can make filters, they can put your emails out to a side if they do not want to look at, or if they're done looking at emails, they can. It's like sometimes even the I would tell you that during the interview season, some of the very important communications get missed. So people are finding ways in which they are gonna separate out candidate emails. So unless someone specifically says don't email me, you don't need to stop emailing them.
All right. Okay. Next, I think it's a good question. MT Avana, can we apply in two different fields in one match, like internal medicine and internal medicine peds, med peds? Would that have a negative impact? I think that's a good question. So I think I'll let you answer, but I think probably play with your strengths still. Maybe don't bring this up that, hey, you're applying to different specialties. Don't bring it up. Keep it silent and make sure your application to different specialties is a little bit tailored to that specialty, but don't bring it up in the conversation.
No,
and
never.
Yeah. Don't bring it up.
Never. No one is going to ask you if you applied for another specialty. So if they say, what is your interest? I think you can protect that information for yourself. You don't need to volunteer that information at all. Even if you're pressed about it, try to find a way in which you do not answer that. Because again, I know it becomes a high stakes game. If you are applying for, say, internal medicine as well as med peds, people may find out if you're going to go to same program and you're going to apply, the institution may find out. Sometimes the coordinators are same for both programs, and sometimes the programs communicate with each other too at some level. There might be faculty who is involved with both programs, sorting out application stuff. But I would say that, carefully apply and protect that information. Make sure, again, as I was mentioning, one program's letter should not go into another one. You can control that. You can actually, I don't know how to do that, but in EDAS, you have your ability to send different applications to different programs and separate them out. So make sure that business is kept separate.
Right. And
the worst thing, one more thing that you can do is which always catches attention. Now that's the mean side of me. If I see that someone is mentioning that they are interested in program and they have addressed another program director for another institution, that would sound extremely odd. And then if your font is such that you are saying to Marshall Clinic comes in a different font, dear Dr. Rehman comes in a different font, that tells you that someone is actually copying and pasting different custom made. So even if you custom make it, make sure it just looks like it's one email which is sent to a particular program, and it's not like you change names. Some people say because of robust city environment they apply to Marshall. So there is no robust city environment. This is out there in 20,000 population in middle of Midwest. So and you have a lot of community. If you would say because of my family is in the area, that would make a headline. If your family is in the area, indeed. If your family lives in Marshfield, people would know about it. Residents would know about it because it's a small town. So the thing is that, you should make carefully, you should do research on your programs, and you should tailor make your application or your intent for those particular programs. You are in the process of interviewing, you have a lot of time. It may not hit 10 programs, it may hit 2 or 3 programs that you just did research on them and you have custom made this particular letter for them, and you may get a call or you may be considered for an interview. That can make a difference. So just don't generalize it and don't just copy and paste stuff.
Right. So basically, don't make basic mistakes when you are sending to any program. Make sure it is, because anybody who's reading is also a human being, and if they notice that, hey, okay, this person probably copy pasted the same thing to multiple other people, and it has some inaccuracy in it, then that's easily picked up, and that definitely will not do you any favors. Right. Okay. So next question. How important is feedback from residents, chief resident, if the interaction is part of the interview? So that's an important question. So I know back in the day when it was personal interviews, do residents or chief residents or junior interviewers, is their feedback important while selecting a candidate? Let's say junior.
If you are gonna be I would say, again, it varies from one program to another. if a program coordinator or a resident would say that someone is weird, that's someone is weird, meaning again, you go out, you're extremely quiet sitting on a site, or you are just out there and you want to answer every single question, or you have one question after another if they have a group session. All those things make you less attractive candidate, to the point that you can be actually considered to be taken off of the list. So I would say, like, that does happen. But you just have to really, like, you just have to do something to be in that ballpark. So I would say that that is important, but I think more than highlighting that you are a good candidate in front of them, to me that does not make a lot of difference, because every candidate usually is very good, and residents have limited ability to filter out a very good candidate from others, and for that matter chief residents. But it's mainly, if you are failing in front of them, if you are acting weird, that is a real big red flag.
Okay, so basically don't act don't act bad, if just act normal, and don't be the bad person, and that they point you out that, hey, okay, don't select this candidate. Don't be that person. Be normal, be yourself, be considerate, be empathic, be inquisitive, but don't make mistakes. Just be a normal person. And interaction from the residents when you're asking about how the resident life is, or if they're call rooms and what is the break hours or whatever, or vacation, how's vacations handled. Answer those residents are good for your understanding, because you want that information for yourself. If this program is a good fit for you, you want that information. But of course, don't be rude, don't be anything obnoxious that they will complain about you and you will be taken out of consideration.
And that does happen every year. I mean, do not be obnoxious, and that's the word. You are not the only one who has to catch attention. People like teamwork. If there are 7 people in your group, and you ask, if there is a time for 7 questions, and you ask one question, you're doing good. That's fine. Just be a good listener. Look at other things, like, make notes if that is a pertinent subject, and try to be and be engaged in the conversation. That's more important than jumping in and asking question, or giving your opinion on each and every step.
Got it. Excellent. So I want to touch on this question: rank order list. Program makes their own rank order list, and the candidates make their own rank order list. And a lot of people have these questions. So should you make a rank order list based on the feedback that the program may have provided to you?
No.
Or you do it based on your own preference?
Right. There's one thing which I would say to you before that. Once you make rank order list, and this if you really like a program and you want that program to be number 1 in your rank order list, you may say that. But that's one thing that no one is ready to believe anymore, because you should not go to every program and say that your program is number 1 in my list. One thing, if the other program, if say like you interviewed at my program and I'm saying that I would rank you very high, and let's say that, and let's say you are number 1 on my list, but you want to go to these 2 university programs, you really like them, but they didn't seem to like you much, you are still going to be at advantage for this particular program. So match should go with your ability. Match is not a matching by coming together of 2 programs. If I rank you high and you rank me high, only then we are going to match. It's in your advantage. You rank a program. That's my understanding. If you rank a program, my program, as the last program, but I ranked you as a first candidate, you will have opportunity to go through all 7 before me, but you still will be able to come into my program. So always rank programs according to your liking of which program you want to go into. Never make false statements. Please don't do that. Never make desperate attempts. Number 1 on my list, number 1 on my list, and then they see that you are #1 on my list and then you are just dropping off and going to another particular program, that does not sound okay. I think it's, again, I mean, no one can hold that against you, but you should be like, I mean, one thing which I see that uh, um, sets a candidate apart again is their ability to be truthful. And I see any statement that says you're #1 on my list, I take it with a grain of salt based on my experience.
All right. So basically go by what you want. If you want a program rank that higher, and if your goal is to match, make sure you rank all of your programs, and even the program that you don't want to
Yes.
go to possibly. If your goal is to match, you and yeah, I think for IMGs is always possibly to just match. I think most of us.
And always, as the last thing, make sure you put your preferences as top priorities, not preferences of other programs who want to get you.
Right. And even if the program ranks you higher, and um, um, you will still get the benefit. If you don't get to your preferred program, you will still get the benefit at the end.
Definitely.
All right. Aisha has a question. Does it matter to answer all the questions in the time slot of the interview that has been pre-assigned, pre-designed by the program? Does that mean giving short answers, especially if the interviewer looks uninterested? I think you mentioned on this. It seems like she's saying that the interviewer already has questions sent out already. Is that what you're asking? That the list of questions is already given to you and you have to answer those questions within that time frame? Is that what you're asking? But I would think yes, if
they do. How?
Okay, if somebody is sending all the questions um, that has been pre-designed by the program, so maybe somebody is sending all the questions. But to Dr. Ateeq's previous question, yes, if they're looking uninterested or their body language is not that comfortable, or they were interested, now they're like standing back and or rolling their eyes or looking at their phone, then it seems like they may not be paying too much attention. And don't ramble on too much. Sometimes we have answers memorized. So if you're seeing that, okay, they're not interested and the long answers are too long, then cut your answers short and say that, hey, if you want to ask any further questions on this topic, maybe we can touch on that later. Just cut it short.
Just do not try to seek out, try to get information about the questions asked either. As I said, you just be a genuine person. No one is going to ask you very weird questions. And even if they ask you once, the answers are not straightforward. And so you do not need to know about them beforehand. It is means saying that I have more questions to ask. Please hurry in your. I'm sorry, I was trying to read what Aisha's saying. I did not get it.
Some programs. Okay, so she's saying that some programs possibly have lists of questions that they want to ask. They have not given a list already, but they want to ask. So I'm thinking they'll probably ask those questions much earlier and then they see how the interview goes. But then she's asking if they are saying that I have more questions to ask, please hurry in your answers.
Oh, that is a very bad sign. That means you, I mean, usually no one is gonna, wow, that's like, I've never said it to anyone. That's like, that can be taken as a gesture of rudeness. But again, know their body language. And if they are saying we have more, maybe you took a lot of time already on the question, or you are taking very long to ask those, to answer those questions. So I think you should just, yes, the answer is you should just go with the shorter answers. And the question, like, like regular interviews, like regular conversation, regular formal conversation. And I think it should be, if you do it with people who are experienced, like, for example, like the way Umar is explaining to you, that's what you are looking for. If you do not have ability to understand how long my answer would be, that means you need to sort of like familiarize yourself with how the conversation in formal setting should take place. And if a program director is different or the faculty is different. That can always happen. If you have 10 interviews, one experience can be very weird. So yeah, and they are human beings too. So if this is their last interview, they might be cranky already, or they might not be registering much. And if this is their first interview and they just heard a very good news before your interview, maybe super excited to talk to you. So yeah, there's a human factor to that too. But to answer that, I think it should not happen on your part that others have to say that I have to ask more questions. Can you just be quick in answering those?
All right, excellent. I got somebody sent a personal message. Should you ask about salary during the interview? So
Never. I even never asked. I would never ask about salary, even if I'm interested in knowing how much I am gonna get, even during the the jobs that I applied to or I experienced with other people. I think salary is something which is important. You can get the info about salary later. You should not ask about that question. I would not. No one has asked me about salary ever, in the years that I have interviewed. What is
All
your
right.
salary? I would be just amazed. I don't know what salary of residence is.
All right. Okay. Okay. I think probably one last question. Some don't have any interview invites so far. What should we realistically be prepared for in December and January? I think we touched upon this last time around, but do programs or your program have a rolling interview invites going on till the very end? And what should people potentially expect? And what can people potentially do in this situation if they still don't have an interview right now?
Yeah, I think it's again it just can be just hard luck. It can be your CV. It can be a combination of things like we discussed in our last session. All I can say is that desperate times like that can happen to anyone. Most of us have experienced that, where we had very little calls, or uh, we had to go through another match cycle. That's a part of the whole deal. Again, this is to say what one should do. It depends on the programs you have applied to. What can you do in trying to access someone who works in those programs, trying to get to know them, trying to find a faculty member that you can talk to, or who can introduce you a little bit to a program coordinator or program director or a faculty member. You can do what you can do. Again, you can keep trying, but again, your desperation is not going to help you.
All right. Okay. So yeah, it's if it's getting late in the year, then it probably may not work. But again, if you know somebody in the program, that's probably the best way to get an interview and somebody to look at your application. Maybe later, maybe just to finish off, last question, if I can ask, post match, I believe is again something that if you have contacts in that program, that's probably the only way to get your foot in the door.
I think post-match, one thing which I would say is more important. Please do not contact like the soap, things that you sign before the match, you enter into match. Make sure you read them properly, because I have personal experience that if you try to contact a program before SOAP begins, that becomes a part of your record for next couple of years as unprofessional behavior. One thing that I can tell you about post-match. The second thing I want to tell you is, please, during your exams and what you do not share the content. You should not. This is about your honesty. This is big deal. And you might have heard about this already, but these things have become red flags. So be honest. You are working in an environment where virtually everything that you are doing in some way or another is information that can hurt you. So just be honest. Do not, like, if you cannot disclose contents of an exam, you cannot. And by word or by your excitement can land you into very difficult waters. Now, coming back to the question of post-match scramble and all of that, I cannot answer that because I've never experienced an unmatched program ever in my career from 2017 up until now. So I don't even know what post-match is, how you get into that. I hope, and I don't want to experience one at all either. So I don't know about the details of how you can get into scramble and all that.
Right. All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, everybody joining. Hopefully this was helpful. It certainly opened up it changed some of my understanding about this process. Thank you so much, Dr. Rehman.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time of you spend for this, and I know you're very busy and looking at candidates every single day right now. So thank you so much, everybody. If you have any questions, we'll see maybe in the future possibly. But thank you so much. We will end this session now. Thank you all for joining. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Bye.